Hello and welcome to today's edition of my Become Unstoppable interview series. And I have an amazing guest who I'm going to introduce to you very shortly. But for those who don't know me, my name is Julie Fitzpatrick. I'm a multi-award-winning therapist and coach, and I support stressed out individuals to find their true purpose and passion so that they can become unstoppable. And we'll find out a little bit more about what I do throughout this interview. But before we waste any more time, I'd like to introduce you to my amazing guest today. I'm probably going to say his name wrong now, and I've been practicing this. Raihan.
Yeah, I'm Raihan Islam. That's right. Thank you.
He's going, no. Thanks so much for coming and joining me today. It's going to be amazing. And I know you've got lots of unstoppable stories, but you're going to share some of those with us today. But before we start, would you like to introduce yourself and let everyone know what it is you actually do?
Yeah. So thanks very much, Julie. I'm really glad to be here. And I hope that something that I say is of some, interest or support, whatever the case is. But I am a founder and coach at High Velocity Startups. I work with startups and other businesses that are really trying to get forward faster, to get funding, to negotiate deals faster, to really get to that success that they're looking for without having too many blockers, really just getting past those and going fast.
Wow.
In a nutshell, that's what I do. There's a lot else, but we'll leave it at that for the moment.
Yeah. And we'll find out a little bit more about your background in a second. But before we forget, I want to ask my question because I like to get this out of the way in case I do get too far into the conversation. So, what does being unstoppable mean to you?
To me, it means making the most out of what I'm capable of doing, or if it's someone else, what they're capable of doing. To me, it's not allowing things to stop me, to psychologically paralyze me, to just keep going and get to that prize, whatever it takes. So, in that sense, I genuinely believe a mind is a terrible thing to waste. We are here, in my view, just once on this world, in this world. We have a chance to really use what we have, what we're given, what we learn, everything that we've taken, and we can change everything. But it does all start up here. So that's really what makes me unstoppable, is that I know that, and I am doing everything I can to, just soar. And that's really what being unstoppable means to me.
Amazing. I absolutely love that. And I really, truly agree with you as well, because everything starts from here. In fact, the only thing we can control in our lives are our thoughts. Everything else is pretty much out of our control, if you think about it, isn't it? We can't control the outside world. We can't control our friends, our family, work colleagues, because they've all got their own mind, right? And that's what I love about doing what I do as well. It's really uncovering that and really deciding whether we've got what kind of mindset we've got, really. And your mindset, I know for a fact, is not static. Your mindset is always moving forward, always up to something. And just for a little bit of background, we met each other in our big business Gold Circle group. Now, I have never met anyone yet, I don't think, who came into the group with so much enthusiasm. And every week he slams out his goals on the group, right? Holds himself accountable to all of us. And then he gives us updates on what he's doing. And it's quite embarrassing for the rest of us, really, in the sense that we're like, oh, okay, what have I done? But it is a really good way of doing it, isn't it? And you're really good at that.
There's a reason why I do that. It's actually to hold myself accountable. It's not to show others, oh, hey, look what I'm doing and what you're not. It's nothing like that. It's because I need that. I need help in that sense. So it's not just, oh, I just all of a sudden my mind is able to try to be unstoppable. There are techniques that I use to do that, and that's just one of them. And I hope that that also inspires people to think about how they might do that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I didn't mean it in the sense that we were all like, oh, it was really in a really positive way. But if it didn't come across like that, it's not what
Oh, no, it did. It did. No.
But so why don't you just give everybody an overview now of what it is you're doing? And then we can get into your story about why, because you wasn't always doing what you're doing, right?
Right. Yeah. There have been a lot of different things, and I'll focus on some important highlights
Mm,
in my life that's taken me to where I am now. But what I do is I advise businesses. I'm a lawyer, solicitor, I'm a management consultant, product manager, software engineer, a lot of different things that I've done in my life, mostly because I'm curious. I'm curious about how to solve problems. A lot of people have asked me, Raihan, why did you change from IT to law? Why did you change from law to IT? Why did you? And they keep asking why I'm changing, but I'm not changing. I'm evolving.
mm.
I'm taking everything that I've ever learned, and I'm finding another way to solve problems in an even more unique and valuable way. So that's how I've seen my evolution. And like I, I sort of forgot your question. I guess it's like what I'm doing, and
Yeah, what you're doing now,
yeah,
it's not always been that way. So what, yeah,
yeah,
but I know that you've been going through some challenges in your own mind in the sense that of who is your niche, who is your target audience,
oh
and kind
yeah.
of a bit of a rebrand, haven't you?
Yeah, that's right. So, in that sense, I was very much someone who was working not just in the corporate world, but also still doing something on the side too. I set up my own business in 2012, but I was also freelancing from 2010, and at the same time, I had corporate jobs all the way throughout. So I have been what people might call a workaholic. I don't think of that in a good way, because I definitely lost a lot of sleep
Mm,
and gained a lot of experience. But yeah, like it was exhausting, and I eventually quit my job last year. Um, yeah, just so basically, in a nutshell, I quit all the corporate stuff last year. But how did I actually quit the job? I was living in Ukraine from 2016. So I left London the first time when I lived there from 2008 to 2015, where I studied law, trained at a law firm. I'm a city lawyer, and I also worked within Amazon's legal team. And then eventually I finished up my law training contract. And then I had an opportunity to move to Ukraine to basically change everything. And I did that. And that was like a really interesting experience. And I met my wife, my now wife there, had my first child there. And then all of a sudden, the U.S. Embassy in Kiev is saying, you know what? If you work at the embassy, we'll let you go home because we think that there's a chance that Russia might invade Ukraine. And that did end up happening. We ended up, unfortunately, we had to leave the country. Um, it was a very difficult decision. My wife, my son, who's only 10 months old, and her mom, we went to Istanbul for a few months. And eventually, there was an immigration scheme that the UK offered called the Homes for Ukraine scheme. And that's how
yeah,
I'm here. That's how I'm here
really?
in London. Yeah. So it was, yeah, very stressful journey because I had to think about, what am I going to do with my family? How am I going to take care of them? I was very
Mm,
fortunate that my employer did have a position for me here in London, and I took that, and that allowed me to try to get back on my feet. And it
mm,
was interesting, but when the war happened, it just really helped me refocus, like what's important. My family's important, absolutely, but it's also about what am I doing to really impact this world, to influence. And so I set up a nonprofit called Everything Will Be Ukraine that helps humanitarian aid in Ukraine. And that
oh,
that created a sense of purpose for me. I'm actually doing something that's really
mm,
important, and that caused me to lose interest in my corporate job and helped me think, well, how can I focus on what I really want to focus on to make the big impacts in the world? And so eventually I was building myself up, and I did eventually leave my job. Everything was starting to go well, and then suddenly I'm sitting in my therapist's office. Is at the end of May 31st, 2023, and I get a call when I'm in the therapist's office. It's 6:16 in the morning. I answer the phone, and because I saw that it was my mom calling, I was like, why is she calling at 6:16 in the morning her time? So it was 11:16 in London. I
mm.
was like, okay, I got to pick this up. And it's
That's
like I
never
asked the
good, isn't it?
therapist, is that
Mm.
okay for me to pick up? She's like, yeah, it's fine. And I answer. She says, Raihan, your brother's not here anymore. He's gone. Like, what? Like, And so I found out that my brother passed away, and
Mm.
I hung up the phone, and I'm looking at my therapist, and I just tell her my brother died.
Wow.
And then I left. I went home. I was getting on the bus, and I started to feel sad, but not for me. I started to feel sad for him because
Mm.
he had gone through a lot of different struggle in the final
Mm.
years of his life, mental health issues, and I just felt very sad for him. And
Mm.
I had to also grapple with the fact that 3 weeks later was the due date of my second son. So
Oh,
I
wow.
didn't even know if I was going to go to the funeral. It
Wow.
was a very difficult time. It just knocked me off my feet completely. I was on a path to
Okay.
rebuilding myself in Ukraine with my family, from Ukraine and into London with my family, and it all got just stopped in its tracks.
Wow. Yeah, I'm really, first of all,
Yeah.
like, obviously our heart goes out to you for losing a member of your family. And, and I do recall you mentioning that before. And like you say, with the fact of your baby coming and all the challenges that you'd had at that time, it was like, really? You must
Yeah.
have thought, what have I done to deserve this?
It was I accepted that life happens, and it's a question of how one responds to it. And
Yeah.
it did knock me down. And we had fled Ukraine. We've had family members, relatives killed in Ukraine,
Wow.
combat and civilian. And so then, there's this. Yeah, we've had to deal with a lot in the past
Yeah.
year. And as I'm trying to get my family like in a stable position, this happens. And luckily, I was able, I don't know if it's luck or grit or who knows what, but I was able to just keep going. But I was stagnant. I wasn't really going as fast as I wanted. So when this type of thing happens, it's like, okay, so I'm taking it easy, but I still need to change the world. How can I do that sustainably? And my wife had sent me a message just a few days before the 1st of September. She's like, hey, Raihan, there's this free event in Stratford. It's about social media monetization. And and I thought, okay, yeah, okay, cool. It's free. Yeah, okay, I'll check it out. She's like, yeah, and take your business cards. Maybe you can, build up some business. I was like, all right, okay. So I was, thinking more about how I could grow my business again. And I attended this event, and it set me on a very interesting path where I have really rediscovered what it is that I can do to change the world, to become unstoppable. I've joined several coaching programs, and you're aware of them, obviously, through big business events. And there's also another in Assets for Life. And yeah, it's really helped me to
Mm.
refocus my sights towards that prize, which is changing the world in many ways. And that's why I help startups, by the way. They're interested in
Okay.
disrupting the market, changing the world.
Mm.
And that's what I want to help them do. And I've made products before when I was much younger. I was just always curious about how can I make something really cool that I like. At first, that was my motivation, make something that I like and then put it out there in the world for others. And I'd get feedback, and then I'd make things better, and I'd get feedback and make things better. And that's what I now do with startups and other businesses.
Wow. And it is, as a business owner, right? I mean, I'm similar to you in the sense that I worked in the corporate world. I worked in it for 35 years, right? But it wasn't my purpose or my passion. I think in the beginning it's okay, isn't it? And then I'm a lot older than you anyway, but as you get, you're just like, oh God, this is so dull. I was a project manager in the finance world, and I'd get a new project, and really you should be quite excited. And I'll be like, oh God. Because it's like same thing, isn't it? Really, just another, probably the same challenges you're going to have because you've still got not enough resources, and the tech might not be there, or and all that stuff. And it's like, oh, really? Can I be bothered to go through all that again? Excuse me.
Exactly. That's exactly what happened to me in the corporate. I was also a project manager and product manager. And yeah, it was, I loved learning how to do that craft and having that insight.
Mm,
But after a certain amount of time, it's like, well, could I use these skills to really put that towards something that I really enjoy?
mm. Yeah, same. And what I ended up about 15 years ago, I had the opportunity to make myself redundant, which I did. And I'd just broken up from my first husband and I'd met my now current husband. And I was going through, I didn't realize it at the time, but I was going through mental health issues. But that sort of thing never happened to me. So I never really addressed it. But I got my husband at the time, or well, my current husband, obviously my new partner at the time, was a youth worker. And I said to him, do you know what? I'm done. I've done with this corporate crap. I want to do a do-gooding job. And then I went into work the next, when they say be careful what you wish for, right? I literally went into work probably about a day or two later. We'd been together literally weeks, right? When he met me, I was this woman who worked up in the city, had her own house, and I was a single mom, but And then within a space of a couple of weeks, I'd quit my job. And then I ended up being this blabbering wreck on the floor because it all hit me at that point, I suppose, because when you're on the go, you don't let anything in, do you? And I get a sense that you're a little bit like that because as soon as you stop, then you've got to feel, right? And we don't really want to feel. And I thought, right, now's my time to go and do a do-gooding job, right? The problem was a few things. Number one, there was a massive stock market crash. I think it was 2008. And there was no jobs anywhere, right? But I said, that's okay, because I'm going to do a do-gooding job now. But I couldn't find a do-gooding job because I didn't have the skills for a do-gooding job and they didn't pay very well. So I've just bought my ex-husband out of the house. I've got doubled my mortgage, and all this sort of stuff. It just wasn't going to be. So I ended up going back eventually, because it took me a while to go back. But during that time, I then decided, okay, I need to plan for this a little bit more. So I trained I spent 4 years training as a counsellor, but I never did it as a job, right? I only done it as a volunteer. I'd done it for many years as a volunteer until it just got too much. So I kind of always had that element of liking to help people. So fast forward to August 2020, back in the corporate world, then I got my curveball and I was unemployed in the middle of the pandemic. And that was when I got my second shot at doing what I wanted. And it was like, well, what is my purpose and passion? And that's when it gets tough, isn't it? When you're really trying to work it out. What is it that you love? What are you good at? And what can you give back? Because I've always been that carer. And I get from what you've
And I've
said,
seen that. I've seen you do care, and you're so supportive to many different people. You're giving people a voice, not just on this live broadcast, but also just in the community. I've seen how you're connecting with people and just really being a person, which I think is just wonderful. Sometimes people forget that we are people. We have businesses or whatever work that we're doing, but we're all just people trying to get through.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's really lovely. And actually, I did win my award, didn't I, for that very reason?
That's right.
So that was lovely in December. So how did you go about then working out what really was your true purpose and passion? Or are you still trying to find it?
When I was in middle school, actually, when I was like, I don't know, 11 or 12 years old, I would always look at what I had learned about in school about great leaders of the world and how are they creating change, how are they impacting the world, both those doing constructive change and those not, like those doing perhaps the opposite. I know it's not black and white and there are spectrums and gray areas, and I learned more about that later in life. But in school, I was like, okay, maybe I could become president too. I had all these interesting thoughts about what I could become. Okay, yeah, I'm going to become a great leader, and I see these wonderful speakers like Martin Luther King Jr. and like different presidents and things like that. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I could do that too. And I eventually tempered some of my expectations as I got older, but perhaps I don't need to, or maybe who knows. But whatever the case was, I was inspired by these people. I saw them as role models, and I aspired towards that. So I did end up eventually going to law school. First, I studied information systems, and then I studied law, and then I became a lawyer. But in city law, I wasn't exactly, saving the world or doing human rights or anything like that. I was helping big businesses. I learned a lot in doing that, which thankfully I'm able to use in how I help different charities or nonprofits, things like that. So yeah, I just had this sense that there's so much that everyone could do if they just believe in themselves, and I was believing in myself. So whenever I also am walking around in the world and I see that anyone's going through a difficult time, or even it could be something minor or major, I do like to see how I can help. I will say though that I was in some cases helping others so much I forgot to take care of myself.
Good
And
point.
that definitely, it's been a struggle throughout my life, but my wife and my 2 kids have helped me see the light a bit better, I'll say.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, right? Because inadvertently, you've given me a really good lead into telling people about what I've got coming up, actually. So thanks for that. And that absolutely wasn't rehearsed. But you just hit the nail on the head, right? Because I work with my clients on a one-to-one basis currently, right? But you can't sustain that, right? There's only one of me. I want to help as many people as I can out in that world. Plus, when you become a business owner, you go, oh, I want a better work-life balance and I want to have. No, it doesn't work like that in the beginning, does it? I'm hoping it changes later, but it's a complete opposite of that, right? So I'm actually working more than I've ever worked in my whole life. But that aside, right? But what I wanted to do, always wanted to do, was create a group program, and I've got the opportunity now to do that. And I'm having in my training that I'm doing, I've got business training and therapy training. I'm always doing because I'm still working on myself, which is a whole new story. But also in that program, I get to get coached on how to build a program, right? So it's about we had to find what was our program going to be about, and what was the 3 main problems that people were suffering with. And I went through all my client files, and obviously going from memory and stuff like that. And I went, every single client without fail would always mention how stressed they were. And pretty much that they're always stressed. Maybe they're not sleeping. Sleep's always comes up as well. They haven't got time. I'm too busy, right? Just like you're saying there, too busy being busy, right? I haven't got time to think about myself. Haven't got time to take time for myself. And we all know about the playing the analogy, don't we, of putting the mask on first to help ourselves. But do you think anyone does that? Did I do that? No. Do I do that now? Yes. Do I do it brilliantly? No, but I do it. And most mornings, I was on therapy training at 7:00 this morning, so I haven't done it this morning, but every morning I get up, I do my exercise and do my meditation. And sometimes I'm doing that for an hour and a half, 2 hours a day, right? Now I get not everyone's got the luxury of that, and I can manage my own diary now. And that's what I love about that element of it. But the point being, the last person we put first is ourselves. And what I say to people now is your self-care is not optional, it's mandatory. And the sooner we get into our heads that it's mandatory, because if we do not, then what happens? We get impacted by psychological and physical conditions, because our body is our subconscious mind. So when people are looking at themselves going, oh my God, I've got stress, I've got anxiety, lack of confidence, and you name the whole realm of psychological issues. But then they suddenly go, well, maybe I'm a bit overweight. Maybe I'm drinking too much. Maybe I'm smoking too much or doing other things I shouldn't be doing, right? Maybe I've all of a sudden got, or not even all of a sudden, but I've got these physical conditions that I never used to have before. What's that all about?
It's happening to me right now. I've actually started to see a physiotherapist, and they're
Really?
looking at me a bit holistically. Like they've actually recommended meditation and other things like that in addition to what they're doing to like treat my arm. I think that my son was a bit hyperactive, and he just like jerked my arm
Threw
in it.
you away.
Maybe something happened, but
Throw you
anyway.
away with his teddy on his arm.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the point is, until we realise that we need to look after ourselves first, then we can't can't expect to be the best versions of ourselves. So my group program, literally, it's a 12-week program, and it takes us back to basics, and it looks at the 3 problems of going from lack of respect, like not respecting ourselves, to respecting ourselves, going from time poor to time abundance, and going from health poor to health reboot. And it's a whole program around putting ourselves first. And there's going to be hypnosis in there. There's going to be other audios. But the most important thing, I think, is there's going to be growth work for people to do, to really go deep and really uncover what's going on for them. Because most of what we do is a habit or a blueprint, right? And based on beliefs that we created when we were 0 to 7 years of age. And I tell people this, right? And it scares the hell out of me to think that as an adult, if you haven't worked on yourself, right? Unless you were really, really, really lucky and you haven't created any negative beliefs, but I'm yet to find someone who hasn't. We create most of our belief systems before we're even 8, right? 8 years of age. But the worst thing is we haven't developed our brain enough yet to even have logic. So most of us are living our lives and making decisions, maybe making big business decisions, life decisions, on a belief perhaps that you created when you were 4 years of age. Who does that? Well,
Yeah, and a lot of people are they're probably not thinking about that could be the source, the root of the issue. Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing, and I don't know about you, like in our business group training where we have the community and where we have the live coaching calls, that's so important, isn't it? Because although in that group we're all business owners, we've all got different businesses, but when someone speaks, it helps you, doesn't it? Because you might think, well, I was going to ask that, or I didn't have the confidence to ask that, or, oh, okay, so they're going through that as well. So having that group of like-minded people is really, really important. And that's what I'm creating with my group as well. The training will be in a portal, but we're going to do weekly live calls. So it'll be like Evergreen where people can join it at different times, but you'll have that group community and that opportunity to have live calls so that you can raise your own questions. And I'm like really excited for it. I'm running a pilot. Yeah, it's really going to be amazing. I've got so much to share, although I've got to make sure that I keep it at a level that doesn't overwhelm, because I don't want to cause people more stress and overwhelm.
Well, I'd love to check it out. When's the next one, or when can we tune in?
So, well, the program, I'm going to start the pilot in February, because what I want to do is I'm going to record a lot of the content, but I want to record some of that live. So people who join me early will get an early bird price, because there is going to be an investment to it because it's transformational. But the program will normally be 12 weeks, but I'm going to invite people into it for 6 months so that they can get the benefit of helping me to build the program, because I think some of it will be better it being live, but also there could be tech issues, right? It's all going to be a startup, so I thought give them that longer period of time to adjust. And also I'm going to be away on a business retreat in March, and I'm not going to be here for a while, so I thought I don't want them to miss out. So I thought do it that way, give them an early bird discount, but also give them longer in the program. And then who knows what's going to happen after the program finishes. But that's what I want to do. I want to help as many people as I can to join that program, but to have a community as well. So
no, that's cool. I definitely want to check it out. So and I will say, yeah, however that's shared online and promoted, let me know, and I guess I'll follow your page, and then of course
you'll find it. Yeah,
I'll see the promotion there. So that's cool.
Yeah. And the other thing I do, which is really interesting, and it's another way we were talking about, this is kind of us people getting to know and like us from doing these recordings, but I also do a regular live webinar which is about unleashing the power of our imagination. So if anyone's interested in that as well, because I teach you there about the power of the mind, how we're all great at using our imagination really negatively. So if you think about it, like stress, fears, lack of confidence, they're all fear-based. But we're only born with 2 fears, fear of falling and fear of loud noises, right? So everything else we've created either learnt behavior, habits, or buried in our belief system. But the point being, we're really using our imagination to really catastrophize fear is just worrying about something that hasn't happened yet. So is anxiety, right? So I teach you about that and ways that you can stop doing that and start. Because imagine, right, if you wasn't using all your energy worrying about something that hasn't even happened yet and probably isn't even going to happen yet. Imagine what you could be doing if you could be thinking about your future. Now, this would appeal to you, right? Because that's what you love doing. You love thinking about who you're going to be and where you want to be, don't you? And really
Yeah,
planning ahead.
I see myself there, and I am headed there. And that's actually a great point that you made. It is about, in that sense, real estate. I'll clarify what I mean by that. It's about investing into real estate, a safe and secure asset. But in this case, I'm talking about mental real estate. What are we allowing to rent inside of our heads? Is it negative beliefs? Is it things that's going to, stop us? Or are we putting in, great things that will motivate us and take us forward somewhere? So that, I think that sounds great, what you'll be offering.
And I think you're at the point where your mindset's really good, right? Your mindset's really strong in, yeah, you might tweak where you want to go along the way, but that's fine, right? Because we go on a journey and you've been on an unstoppable journey already, right? But, like you said earlier about you did your legal job and it wasn't necessarily what rocked your boat, but by doing that, it's given you your springboard for what you're doing now. And the same as
That's
me,
right.
like all my learnings from my corporate life really helped me in my business, right? Even things like, because I used to manage projects to put software systems in and stuff and things like that, not massive ones, but so I know when I'm talking to my website man and we're maybe creating a funnel or something, well, I know what a funnel is. And then I go, well, okay, so what happens when that goes there? Then how does that come through? Because I can think what way is that? How am I going to get that done then? How does that work? Whereas a lot of people wouldn't even have that luxury, would they? They just go, oh, with technology, you go, oh, it just appeared. How did that happen? Well, sorry, when you're a business owner, you need to start knowing how that happens.
That's why I was saying it's all about an evolution. It's not like you're one thing or whatever. You're the collection of everything you've ever learned, and that having that insight as a business owner is very helpful. And it's the same thing that I do with startups. In that sense, the startup owner, they might be really skilled at something. It could be that they're an excellent software engineer. They could be a marketing guru. Whatever the case is, they could have multiple skills as well. But it's about how can I get to where I'm going as fast as possible, but in a responsible and strategic manner. So that's what I look at, thanks to the skills that I've gained over time. I taught myself how to code when I was 12 years old in 1998.
Wow.
And I made a product that tens of thousands of people used when I guess by the time I was 16. And that was before I went to uni. And then I went to uni and my creativity kind of got stunted by going to college. But then I made a product there that instead of tens of thousands of people using it, I actually attracted hundreds of thousands of followers and fans to a social media account. I was supporting a band and they became really popular. I used a lot of automated marketing technology, and that evolved into me. So I help startups, but I also have been a founder too. I've been a tech entrepreneur. And so I want to share my experiences to help them go faster. The last thing I just want to say is that in 2015, and it's one of the reasons I moved to Ukraine, is that I wanted to make a language translation engine that would translate between English, Russian, and Ukrainian. As I mentioned, I want to change the world. And it's like, well, Raihan, how are you going to change the world by translating through these languages? I care about communication. I care about diplomacy, international security. And I thought, well, it'd be really good if people could translate between these languages. And then if they do have any misunderstandings, we can work on that. So I like to use automation to achieve that. And I was trying to build what people now call large language models. ChatGPT is based on a large language model. The reason why I didn't finish building this product, although I did make a prototype in 2019, is that I got stuck in my corporate job. I cared about the rat race, and I cared about getting promoted 5 times in 5 years, which I did, which was cool, but it was like a game. It was just a game. And eventually,
More of a challenge.
Yeah.
Interesting, isn't it? Because you are what you focus on, aren't you? That's what we say. where your energy goes. No, wait, what is it? Where your energy goes, progress flows. That's not it. Something like that. But whatever you're focusing on, that's the line that you're end up following, right?
Yeah, I
Which
got
is
stuck caring about things that weren't that important. Like, why does my ego care about, getting
yeah.
promoted or, all these different things? It wasn't the right focus.
No, and what's interesting about that is when you were caught up in all that promotion stuff, would you say that you was even taking time out for yourself back then to even stop and think about what it is you actually wanted?
I felt more and more disappointed as the years passed. Like, I came to Ukraine to build this, like, basically AI machine learning, like, technology, and here I am focused on a job. Like, here I am not learning Ukrainian.
Mm.
And my wife does remind me, "Hey, you were in Ukraine for 6 years and you didn't learn Ukrainian." That, yeah, it's terrible. I feel bad about that I didn't properly learn it. Of course, I'm helping Ukraine in other ways right now, but it'd be great. I'm now learning Ukrainian from my son.
I was going to say, are they multilingual? I love that.
Yeah,
I think you should, but they learn like a sponge, though, don't they? For us, it's a little bit harder. Maybe what you should do is to get your wife or something to do you an audio that you just listen to at night, because that's what a lot do with hypnosis, isn't it? It's just people learn by absorbing it while they're asleep.
yeah,
But
that's fair.
make sure she doesn't set you up though, because she might put in there, you will do the dishes every day and do all the
Wouldn't
washing.
be a bad thing. It would be a helpful teamwork thing.
But yeah, you could do the language part just in an audio that you listen to every night, and then
Yeah.
before you know it, you would just be doing it. And you probably have picked up more than you know, because you presumably were working with Ukrainians during the day, right?
Absolutely. I mean, there's the one very important phrase which everyone should know everywhere in the world, which is Slava Ukraini, which means glory to Ukraine. So that's the most important one, I would say.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, what would you say were, I don't know, the top? I'll say three, but if you can't think of three, it doesn't matter. The three things that you've had to really overcome in life.
Well, one of them is anxiety, for sure. I would get preoccupied with things that at first I thought I had different attention issues. I think I have those too. But the case is that I was getting distracted. I was allowing myself to get fixated on things that weren't actually allowing me to move forward. I would solve problems that never existed. That's probably helped me in other ways. It's helped me in other ways when I advise companies, but
Mm,
I was spending a lot of time on that. Maybe it's how I ended up making some of these crazy technologies or software, but it did also, it was a big drain on me. So anxiety, I would say, is a huge one. Another one in general was not thinking about my own just physical health. So I
mm,
would just keep going. I, I'm a vessel that's meant to change the world or whatever, but I wasn't treating this vessel very well. And well, without my health, how can I actually do things?
exactly.
So that took some time to recognize and to deal with it. And my wife reminds me, hey, like, if you're not here, how are your children gonna grow up in a stable life and all of that?
Mm,
So yeah, I have definitely gained more insight into that and trying my best to practice it. And then the third thing I would say in terms of struggle would just be accepting more about just who I am and how I have done things, and anything that I have ever struggled with, not see those as bad things or as harmful things that have happened to me, but as lessons,
love
as
that.
something to grow
Mm,
from. So that's
mm,
really all of that together. Plus, I would say if there are two decisions that I made that were really good, the number one decision was that I married my wife. So Mariana, if you see this, you'll know that you're the best decision.
smart
And
move.
and number two is joining these coaching programs, because they've
Mm,
really helped me focus. They've helped me really just take what and who I am and all of that and be a bit clearer. So in terms
Mm,
of communicating the value that I can provide to others, because I
mm,
have a lot to provide, but it's been a mess because there's been like so much.
yeah. And your brain feels like that as well, doesn't it? You're like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Clarity is just, it's
yeah.
really important. So, and I will just say this because I didn't mention earlier, what I do for startups interested in working with me is that as a coach, I act as a form of mini accelerator. So I'm looking to help startups find out how fast they're going, to
Hmm.
find out how much faster they can go to get that funding, to close that deal, to be able to actually accomplish whatever it is that they were trying to, some MVP or, whatever the case.
Hmm. So does it have to be a tech company or is it any startups?
So in a sense, the most companies that are changing the world could be both. So it's any innovative company, but tech startups tend to have some form of software
Mm,
or hardware or technology component to them. I mean, Airbnb, for example, that's a tech company, even though
mm,
it's involves real estate. If there was, for example, a mental health connection network where therapists were there and clients were,
mm.
that's tech as well. So
Okay.
really everything in a sense is a tech
Has some
startup.
sort of tech on it, doesn't it? Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
But the moral of the story is, though, your passion is helping startups that have got a vision, if you like, of helping in some way other people or the world, or that
yeah,
kind of.
making an impact. And
Mm,
speed, by the way, speed kills, meaning if you're too slow, startups have a lot of struggle in
mm.
succeeding. Most of them fail. It's
Yeah, I
a
think it's the first
it's a
two
statistic.
years,
It's a
isn't
big one.
it? Mm,
And so that's why it's so important for them to accelerate and to go as fast as possible strategically. And that's what
yeah,
I look to help those startups
yeah.
with, because of my legal skills, my tech skills, my management skills, my product skills,
And your
giving
speed.
them a holistic way, yeah, to just help ensure that they're getting there fast.
Yeah, that's amazing. That I really like that. And when it is important when you decide, if I mean, we're not saying to people that, I mean, obviously there'll be people watching this who are in their employed in paid employment, right, corporate or whatever, and you're happy doing that, and that is amazing, right? But what you need to realize is you need to just take a look at yourself and see whether you are looking after yourself and putting yourself first. And people feel guilty about that, but we mustn't feel guilty, because it's actually, you're doing yourself and your family a disservice if you don't, right? So always think about that. But it could be that you're lacking in confidence to actually put yourself forward for that promotion, or put yourself forward for a job that you've always wanted to do. So limiting beliefs and habits and that can really hold you back. So investing in your personal development in that sense can be amazing. But obviously, if you are a small business owner or a business owner of any kind, you need to be working on yourself as well as your business coaching. Because if you've got small beliefs, right, or even if you've got money mindset beliefs, that's going to keep your business small. So it's about really uncovering what limiting beliefs that you've got, because trust me, we've all got them, right? And how is that holding you back? Is fear holding you back? Is the thought of change holding you back? Do you always procrastinate? Do you never finish? What's going on for you? And that's what's important, isn't it? It's about really uncovering what's going on underneath. And when I work with my clients, it isn't like talking therapy, because we do talk a bit, but not in a sense that you would. And I know you've done a lot of talking therapy as well.
Yeah.
We don't come and see me for 50 minutes every week and we just talk and talk and talk around your problem. What we do is we go deep diving, we go deep into your subconscious mind and find the root cause, and we rip it out and throw it away. And then we realign with some new empowering beliefs. It's really, really powerful. It can be really quick because you can have instant release from it. But what I do with my clients now is integrate the coaching that comes with it. So I teach you different breathing techniques, different ways of expressing through your body, little embodiment techniques, different ways to help stop the talk in your head. And that's why I wanted to do the program as well, so that I could bring a lot of that into the program, using the hypnosis part. It's not going to be quite the same, but you can still get amazing results. And it's, I've got clients who are just, I did a guy this week, actually, yesterday, in fact. And when he got home, he went, "Thank you so much." He said, "I feel like for the first time ever, I can actually start living my life."
It's amazing.
And that's why I do what I do. That's why I get up in the morning and look after myself and continue to train to be the best version of myself, so I can help you guys unleash what you're missing in life so that you can move forward.
And so that
And
you can be unleashed and make a successful startup as well, if that's what you want to do.
yeah, you know, whether, you know, same with you with my niche, right? I've been grappling with that a lot, because when I first started, I was women in the prime of their lives, which I still have clients, like ladies in that sense, but then I was having men, and then I kind of lost sight of who I was talking to, right? And we know what happens when that happens. You're actually talking to nobody. So that's when now I've really focused down, and I didn't want it to be men. I didn't want it just to be women. I didn't want it to be just business owners or professionals, because one of the key things my coach said to me is the best way to identify your niche is to be the people who were like you 2 or 3 years ago. Well, me 2 or 3 years ago was stuck in the corporate world. Then I was half straddled in, half out. So I was working full time whilst trying to build my business. And then last year, finally quitting my job. So last year was my first full year in business, to actually come on this journey that I'm doing now, which I absolutely love. Sure, it's challenging. And sometimes it's like my head's just like, oh. But now I
That's a
know
great point.
how to deal with it.
That's a really good point. In terms of, you mentioned breaking out of the corporate world and, you know, helping them to see where they could go, and I've experienced that as well. I eventually left the corporate world, and I've now helped others to do that too, so that they can do something that they actually enjoy,
Yeah.
something that makes them feel passionate about what they're doing. And yeah, there's always that potential concern of, oh, do I have enough capital? You know, if I want to
Mm,
start a startup, like startups are often cash strapped. Well, there are ways to deal with that. For example, by first taking control of how you get your finance through, for example, becoming a freelancer. I've trained people on how to become freelancers to have more freedom, so that then they can actually bootstrap their start. That's
mm,
just one of many different techniques.
mm.
You don't always have to give up all your equity to
No.
investors.
No, I mean, I've had to completely change my mindset around money. I mean, I earned quite good money. Don't get me wrong, I was never rich, but I wasn't poor either. To going from that to cutting off my lifeline, if you like, that was such a huge decision. But I just got to the point, and I just felt like my energy was being caught up over there and not in what I really wanted to focus on. And eventually, you just have to be honest with yourself, don't you? And I went, do you know what? I'm doing it, and this is going to work. And I won't lie, there's challenging times with it financially, but not once have I ever gone, oh, I don't think this is ever going to work. I've never once thought, you know what, I need to go back and get another job, because I can't even begin to tell you how that makes me feel sick if I ever have to
It's
do.
making me feel sick right now hearing the possibilities.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? And it's like, no. And everybody can make changes. And this is the thing. You might feel like you're stuck in a rut right now, but it doesn't have to be that way. And I think both of us are testament to that, that if you want to make changes, you can. It can be uncomfortable. Pushing forward can be uncomfortable. And we're still getting that friction, right? Because as soon as we get a little bit comfortable in what we're doing, something else needs to be pushed forward, and then you feel uncomfortable again. But it's about having the tools and techniques to do that, and not to be afraid, and to trust your instincts, trust your heart, and trust that the universe, God, or whatever it is you follow, has got your back, right? But the only way you can do that is making sure your conscious beliefs match your subconscious beliefs, because you can talk all day long about, you know, you're all right, but if your belief system doesn't, that's always going to win. So on that note, I think that's a good time to end it. We could talk for hours, but we can't,
Yeah.
unfortunately. Thank you, everybody who's watched this live, and anyone who watches this on the replay. This video will be uploaded onto my Millieside Therapy and Coaching YouTube channel. So, and you can see that, and many of the other interviews and my client testimonials and client interviews are on there too. If you're interested in coming to work with either of us, obviously reach out to us, and we would love to have that conversation. We're both on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. So yeah, come and reach out to us. So thank you so much, my lovely, for coming on. It's been such fun, and I knew you as always had unstoppable stories. And this is why I like doing this as well, is because I get to meet people, and obviously we've met before, but you get to find out a little bit more about people, and I love that too. So I wish you all the luck in the world.
Thank you. Thank you, Julie. It's been, thank you for giving me the opportunity to share my story, and it's just a nice chat. So I really appreciate it. And I hope that anyone who's listening, you've gotten something valuable out of this. And yeah, feel free to connect with us to see how we can support you as well.
Brilliant. So thanks, everybody. Have an amazing day, night, evening, whatever time you're watching this. And I'll see you next time with another amazing guest. Oh, and by the way, if any of you out there have got an unstoppable story and you would like to come on here, then let me know and we'll have a conversation. Always looking for new guests. All right then. Thanks ever so much. Bye for now.
Bye.